All right, welcome back to lesson number 2. So we are now stepping into the second room of the DeFi house, lending your assets. So basically, you can lend your crypto and earn the actual yield. And all of that works algorithmically on chain and without permission, because all of the DeFi protocols, DApps, everything is based on the smart contracts, and all of that is permissionless. So here's how it works on a high level. Basically, you supply some crypto to the protocol. This could be USDC, this could be some Solanas, Ethereum, Sui, doesn't matter. Any asset that the protocol supports. Then others can borrow that assets by leaving over collateralized assets. And then the protocol pays you interest, usually daily. And the smart contracts handle everything. So you are not trusting people that you left some assets to lend, others borrowed and said, yeah, I will return the money, but who knows if they will. It's not like that. You are actually trusting the code, because all the loans on DeFi are over collateralized, meaning that every single user, before he is able to borrow, he must leave more collateral than he borrows. So, for example, very simple example, user one, let's assume that user one is you. So you deposit $25,000 USDC to the protocol and you leave them there to generate yield. Maybe you have some stable coins waiting for the market to drop or something. You just hold some USDC in your wallet, right? So you can deposit them to the DeFi protocol, lending and borrowing protocol. There are many of them. And basically leave them there to generate yield. You are able to withdraw at any time. You are in a full control. Then user 2, let's assume that he deposited $5,000 worth of assets. This could be some Ethereum, some Solanas, some Bitcoin, doesn't matter. But the total value of his assets is $5,000. And now he needs to borrow some USDC. So when he borrows, let's say 1,500 USDC from the USDC pool of that protocol, he's paying the borrowing interest. And those interests are going to the lenders. Most of the interests. Some are kept as a protocol fees, but more than, I don't want to, lie to you, because these things you often change, but in most cases, approximately 85 to 95% of all the interest generated goes to the actual lenders or liquidity providers. So now he left that $5,000 worth of assets as a collateral inside the protocol to borrow 1.5K. Even if he is not repaying his loan, he still left his collateral, and the protocols are pretty smart in this case, and they implemented liquidation methods, and I'm going to explain all of that on the borrowing lesson. But basically, if he is not repaying, if the collateral value is dropping, the protocol can liquidate the user and repay the loan, that 1.5K, from his collateral, and you are still getting paid, no problem. But the formula is dynamic and is based on the utilization rate of the pool, which means that sometimes you might see much higher or much lower APIs on your deposits or loans. For example, inside the USDC pool, let's say we have 10 million USDC deposited. And let's say that out of that 10 million, only 2 million USDC is borrowed, meaning that the utilization rate of this pool at the moment is only 20%. So we have a lot of free capital in the pool. 10 million deposited, 2 million borrowed. So 8 million is still available. So the protocol does not need to incentivize new deposits. So the yield to lend will be lower and the borrowing will be cheaper simply because there is a lot of free capital. But the moment this changes, and let's say out of those 10 million deposited, 8.5 million is borrowed from the pool, the formula automatically adjusts and starts offering much higher APIs for lenders to attract new deposits. And borrowing also becomes more expensive. So, this is how lending provision works in DeFi. So, sometimes your asset, like for example, Ethereum, can generate 3% API, sometimes 7, and sometimes 1.2 or even 0.7. It all depends on the utilization rate of the pool. And this applies to lending and borrowing provision, not liquidity farming or yield farming using liquidity pools. This is just a simple lending and borrowing. And in my opinion, the best way to actually understand all of this is by practically doing that. So now we will jump on one of the biggest lending protocols in DeFi, which is called Aave. And I will show you how to actually deposit some assets into the pool and how it all looks. And then once I show you that, your homework will be to go ahead and deploy some capital into the protocol as well. This could be a small amount of USDC or ETH or whatever asset you have. But just to feel the rhythm, feel the pulse, how it works practically. Because theory is one thing, but when you try it yourself, that's complete new level. So now let's jump straight onto the protocol and let me show you how to deposit some assets and make your money, make your crypto work for you right away, the easiest way. Okay, so we are now in Aave, and Aave is the biggest lending and borrowing protocol in DeFi. As you can see, so far, at the moment, at the time of recording the video, 51, almost 51 billion of liquidity is currently supplied in Aave. It's more than some of the banks. So Aave is really a very high trust protocol, and a lot of people are using it and trust it. Me being one of them. So when you go to aave.com, it's double A, aave.com, you will see the homepage. You can scroll here. You can see all of the information about the protocol, but the most important thing is clicking open app, and it will redirect you to the app. Now I do have my wallet already connected, so let me disconnect and show you how to actually do that. Okay, so when you come to the protocol for the first time, you will see something like that. You will see most likely core instance window. You will see some information here, and you will be able to connect your wallet right here. How to create wallets, how to connect wallets to protocols, how to confirm transactions, you already know. So I'm not going to explain that part. But basically, when you come to the Aave protocol itself, you want to go ahead and click connect wallet. And it will ask you which wallet you want to connect. I showed you how to create Rabbit wallet, Phantom as well, etc. It's up to you which wallet you want to use. In this case, I'm using Rabbit. So I want to click on Rabbit wallet. It will request the connection. I will click on connect. And now, as you can see, I am on the protocol. Now, in Aave, and Aave itself supports multiple chains, so to speak. So for example, if you click on this mini arrow right here, you are able to choose between all of the chains that Aave supports. And keep in mind that all of these are basically Ethereum layer 2s. So you have the core Ethereum itself, which is ERC20 network, the main Ethereum network, but most of the action happens on layer 2s. And one of the biggest and most popular and most hyped and hot layer 2 right now is Base. So I will choose Base as well as a chain for this video. You are able to deposit assets on Base, on Arbitrum, on Polygon, on Avalanche, etc. But in this example, because Base is one of the top layer 2s that I've been using, I will be using, and you will be using, especially on your DeFi journey, by providing liquidity to the pools, etc. I want to show you on Base. So when you click on the Base market, you will see that your net worth is now zero, net API is non-existent because you haven't deposited anything. But you have basically two windows, your supplies and your borrows. In this case, because we have nothing supplied yet, we don't see anything here. And because we haven't borrowed anything yet, we don't see any borrowing positions as well. So now, how do you supply and how do you make your money work for you right away? Very simple. Below, you will find all of your assets. What do you have in your wallet? And as you can see, in this case, I do have one Ethereum, I do have 300 USDC, and pretty much nothing below. So next to the wallet balance, you will see the API. And this API is how much Aave is paying right now to supply these assets into the protocol. So in this case, for Ethereum, Aave is paying 2.05%. For USDC, Aave is paying 5.4%, which is not too bad, right? Just for stable coins. And for the rest of the assets, it pays even less. So let's supply that one Ethereum into the Aave so you can see how it looks and how it feels. So very simple. You simply click on supply. If you see please switch to Base, simply click switch network and your wallet will automatically switch to Base. So let's supply one Ethereum, which is in this case a 3.4k dollars. Click on supply Ethereum. It will ask you to confirm that transaction. In this case, click on sign, confirm. It's confirmed, all done. Now click on OK, close. And now as you can see, your net worth is now 3.46k. So we deposited one Ethereum into Aave and my API is 2.05%. So that's it. Now my Ethereum is actually earning me money. Of course, this API is not much and its annual percentage yield, which is 2% per year, it's nothing, right? But the point of the lending provision is not to actually generate life-changing money or consistent monthly cash flow. The point of the lending provision is to get access to capital, to liquidity, without selling your core assets. So now, by me depositing my Ethereum into this protocol, I now have access to borrow in stablecoins, in Bitcoin, in any supported assets right here, as you can see. I can borrow against my deposit and use the borrowed capital elsewhere to generate even more yield without selling my Ethereum. Then I can repay my loan at any time as well, but I'm going to explain all of that in the next video where I go over the borrowing system, like how it works, how to borrow, how to repay the loan, etc. But now I showed you how to supply your Ethereum or any supported assets by Aave into this protocol, and now that's it. Your money is now working for you. It is now generating this yield. Simple as that. If you wish to withdraw your money from the protocol, you can do that anytime as well. As you can see, you have the button withdraw, and if you click on withdraw, you are able to withdraw the same one Ethereum. For example, click on withdraw ETH and you will withdraw your money back to your wallet. I will not do this right now because I want to show you how to borrow as well. But once we borrowed and repaid the loan, we will then withdraw the Ethereum just to show you that it's very simple and it's permissionless. There are no locking periods, nothing like that. You deposit and withdraw at any time you wish. So that's how everything works. Also, if you want to check the utilization rate of the pools on Aave right now, you can go ahead and click, instead of a dashboard, click markets. And now you will see that on base chain, what kind of things you're able to see. So as you can see right now, for example, Ethereum, you have 334 million worth of Ethereum deposited into Aave, and out of that, 297 is borrowed. And because of this utilization rate, Aave is offering about 2% API for your Ethereum. In general, getting a good yield by lending your Ethereum is pretty difficult because Ethereum itself is a massive coin, right? There's a massive ecosystem and it does not usually offer high APIs. But as I said before, it's not the point. The point is not to earn from lending your assets unless you have hundreds of millions. Then, of course, even 2% API will make you good money. The point is not to sell your assets for the long-term perspective and be able to borrow against them and use the borrowed capital to participate in liquidity pools, generate much, 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 much higher yield, and then repay the loans from the incoming yield that you generate, right? For example, USDC, as you can see, we have 190 million deposited, 166 borrowed, which is the utilization rate on this pool is pretty high, meaning that they incentivize new deposits by offering 5.44% on your deposits to USDC. Once this number becomes even higher, for example, from 191, if this would be 185, this number would be close to 7 to 8%. The same can happen vice versa. If you have 191 million deposited and only 50 million borrowed, this number would be close to 1 or 2%. Simple as that. And you can see all of the assets as well below. Also, one thing that might happen to you, maybe you accidentally switched networks, and when you log into Aave, when you connect your wallet, you might see something like Arbitrum Market, and you see, oh, I don't have any money, even though I deposited one Ethereum. Where is my money, right? Always check that you are on the right chain when using Aave, because Aave supports multi-chains, meaning that, for example, Arbitrum Market and base markets are two completely separate elements. So if you have money on base and you deposited money on base chain, they are on base, but not on the rest of the Ethereum layer 2s. So if you want to deposit on Arbitrum, then you have to change your Ethereums from base chain, bridge to Arbitrum, and then deposit on Arbitrum. Because you see, as you can see, I have only $1 and $70 of assets on Arbitrum chain. But if we switch to base, I have my one Ethereum and other assets that are on base chain on my wallet. So this is just a quick reminder not to get scared if you don't see your money. You're probably just on a wrong chain. So that's how you actually use Aave, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, actual lending protocol on DeFi. So I just show you how you can deposit and supply the money, and now this money is working for you. I know it's not much, 2%, but it's still in, not out. So that's it for this lesson on how lending works, and we will now move forward on to the next lesson where I will show you how borrowing works in DeFi.